Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So today we're going to take a break from Pirkei Avos. We're going to just talk about the fast of Esther, Taanis Esther. Tomorrow, of course, tonight is Purim. Tomorrow is Purim. So just touch on that a little bit. In particular, the fast of Esther is unique, different than all the other fasts. For one thing, it happens to be it's actually a more lenient fast, but also it's not 100% clear exactly what is the source of this fast, because there really are two. So we know that this day, the 13th of Adar, is corresponding to the day that the Jewish people actually were doing the battling in the time of the Purim story. The 14th, when we're celebrating Purim, is commemorating the fact that they celebrated. It's not, usually we have holidays on the day that something happened, right? Here, it's the celebration of what happened is what we're the day we're having the holiday. So the 14th of Adar, tomorrow, when we're celebrating Purim, and tonight, is commemorating the celebration that they had for the victory that they had in the time of the Purim story. But today, the 13th, is the day that they are actually doing the battling. And we are taught that back in the day, from the time of King David already, when the Jewish people went out to battle, they would fast. You can imagine, not only were you fighting, you were also not eating when you were fighting. You were fasting when you're fighting, because we recognize that when we go to war, it's not just the might of our hands, but it's Hashem that we're relying on. And that's therefore, when we're fasting, we're asking Hashem to help us. So the 13th of Adar, actually interesting, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, his wording is, of course, it's likely that they fasted on that day, because that's what the Jews did when they went to battle. And so that's what we're doing today. On the other hand, there's another fast, which is possibly in a sense more famous because it's in the Megillah. In the story of the Megillah, we know that what happened was that when they found out that Haman had made his decree, Mordechai was he took off his regular clothes, he put on sackcloth and was dressed in a way that was showing signs of mourning. And Esther wanted to find out what was going on, and they had this dialogue where Mordechai said that she should go to the king and plead on behalf of her people. And she was reluctant because if you weren't called to the king and you just walked in there, he could kill you. And she hadn't been called for 30 days, so chances are she wasn't going to be successful. And Mordechai says, "This is your moment." That's another Devar Torah, the "this is your moment" discussion. But she says, I'll do it, and this is what you should do. V'tzumu alai, that you should fast for me and don't eat or drink for 3 days. So everybody, get all of get all of the Jews in Shushan, and she and her maidservants will also fast, and they're going to fast for 3 days. And that's, we commemorate, they fasted for 3 days, and that was because of Esther. So we have the name Taanis Esther, the fast of Esther. The only little catch to that is that those 3 days of fasting were not on the 13th of Adar. It was not this day. In fact, it was right around Pesach time. It was in the month of Nisan, on either the 14th, 15th, and 16th of Nisan. And that year, they didn't eat matzah for the Seder because they were fasting. And therefore, it was happening then. And just as a recognition of that in terms of timing, the fast of Esther, or those 3 days when all the Jewish people were fasting for her success to be able to speak to the king, that happened 11 months before the actual battle. So on that time, during the Nisan, the 14th, 15th, and 16th, and then Haman is going to, that when he comes to try to get Mordechai killed, and Achashverosh wants to reward Mordechai, he tells Haman to go and parade him through the streets in the royal clothing, right? All of that, that's happening on Pesach. And the parties that Esther is making for Haman and Mordechai, those private parties, the first one and then the second one where she says, he's the man, he's trying to kill us, right? That happened on Pesach. And Haman was hung on Pesach. It's 11 months later that the date was set for when Haman's guys were supposed to go out and kill all the Jews. And that was the date, the 13th of Adar, where Achashverosh gave permission for the Jews to fight against their enemies, it's 11 months later. So just in terms of chronology. Now, in terms of just a couple of a message here is, we know when we're fasting, the idea of fasting is not merely to not eat. It's supposed to be getting us in a mindset that we understand that either we're repenting in many of the many of the fasts, and here when Esther had responded to say that we should all fast, everyone should fast. So the Medrash actually records that she davened to Hashem, and she said, "Save your maidservant. I was an orphan. I was poor, and please grant success to your poor maidservant. Rescue your people and rescue the people from the enemy." And she refers to Hashem as the father of orphans. Stand by this orphan who trusted in your compassion. And why is Esther bringing up her once upon a time? Now she's the queen. She's not an orphan. I mean, she's maybe an orphan, but she's not poor anymore, right? So the message there was that in her mind, to make her really feel it, she had to remind herself, let me go back and remember when I was poor and I was first an orphan, right? And times are tough. And I want to make sure that I recognize that I am totally dependent on Hashem's kindness and that He's taking care of me. And we actually do this on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur time. We also tell Hashem, we come before you with nothing. This is a new year. You're decreeing what's going to be for the year. I whatever I have, well, like I don't have. It's only because you gave it to me. It's not permanent. And the idea that anything could change at any moment. We recognize that Hashem is controlling things, and therefore Esther tapped into her youth when she recognized how things were so terrible, and that made her feel a stronger sense of reliance on Hashem. She needed that extra push, even someone on Esther's caliber. And so, for us, we need something to sometimes inspire us to feel a little stronger that, what, we are dependent on Hashem. Sometimes we fool ourselves and we think, oh, look, I've got my nice house and I've got a job, I got this, I got that, everything's good. It's not really Hashem, it's me, right? We kind of get those feelings many times. So we need to reinforce that feeling to remind ourselves that no, everything we have is really coming from Hashem. And fasting is one of the ways that we accomplish that by creating a lack of I'm not eating, I don't have something. It creates that feeling as well. And of course, I think at this juncture when we're in this situation right now, for sure, we have to remind ourselves that everything that's happening is because Hashem made it happen. Some people are saying, we're doing the Purim story all over again right now, right? Some of the same characters, the Jews, the Persians, the Iranians, but essentially we must remember, and the fast will help reinforce that for us, is that it's our prayers and our mitzvos that are going to be ultimately the heralding of success for the Jewish people, and that we are relying on Hashem to make sure that all of the things that our army does are going to be successful, because we know that anything could happen, and sometimes even the ones who are stronger don't win, or seem to be stronger don't win, and therefore it's important at this time that we reinforce our reliance and our recognition that everything is coming from Hashem. Have a Purim Sameach, everyone, and the rest of the fast should be easy, and hopefully we will be inspired by Purim and the Megillah